So today we are going to see an important point, of this chapter, which is double fertilization, triple fusion. Triple fusion. Okay, so this is an important question of this chapter, double fertilization, triple fusion. So we already know the contents of the embryo sac, right? So how actually this fertilization takes place, that's what we are going to see over here. Now, whenever the male gametes and those when they enter into the synergids, you already know synergids, they are present at the micropylar end of the embryo sac. So, as you know that the male gametes from the pollen grains, it will enter through what? The pollen tube, right? It will enter through the pollen tube, and that male gametes is going to go and fuse with the egg, which is there inside it, to form the zygote, to form the final product, in short. Right? So double fertilization, triple fusion. In this, what happens is, yeah. So in this, the first thing that happens is when it enters into the synergids. Okay. So after entering the after entering the synergids, what happens is the pollen tube will release two gametes. That is the two male gametes. Right? So where it will release this two male gametes into the cytoplasm of that particular synergid. Now there are two gametes, right? So both the gametes should fuse differently. Now here what happens is, I'll just write over here, one gamete, one male gamete, it will move towards egg cell. Okay, and it will fuse with the nucleus to form zygote. This process is called as what? Syngamy. That is, the zygote will be diploid. Then remains what? The third one, which is the second male gamete. So whatever the second male gamete is there, that will move towards the polar nuclei. And this polar nuclei, where it is located in the central cell of that particular embryo sac. So it will fuse with them and fuse with them, right? And it will form triploid primary endosperm nucleus. In short, it's called as the pen. Okay, so here syngamy as well as the triple fusion both is taking place inside the embryo sac. Correct? So, like if you want to simplify this, I'll just write it over here in the form of the flow chart. Okay, so you have the first step, two steps. See, this is actually called as double fertilization, triple fusion, right? So now double fertilization, because two male gametes are being fertilized over here. So hence double fertilization. And triple fusion means, here I already told you that over here primary endosperm nucleus. Okay, in that how many nucleus will be present? Two. Because as you know that in the central cell of the embryo sac, two nucleus will be present. So there two we have, and one in the egg cell. So 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. So hence it's called as what? Triple fusion. Okay, so I'll just write it down in the process. So the first process, syngamy, okay, where the one of the male gamete is going to fuse with the egg cell to form the zygote, and it develops into the embryo. So you can write it as how? Like this. That is the male gamete, just consider it as an N, plus the egg cell, consider it as N, right? So now this totally is going to give you what? A zygote, that is the 2N. This will give you embryo, and then the plant. So this is a 2N. So, okay, so this is the first step. Now you have the second one. And yeah, so it's the triple fusion. So I'll just write this also in the form of the flow chart. So you have the male gamete. This is the second male gamete. That is N plus the two polar nuclei. So this will be N plus N because two polar nuclei is there. So this is going to form a PEN, that is a primary endosperm nucleus, which is 3N total. And then finally the endosperm. Okay, so if you see two male gametes fusing two times, hence double fertilization, whereas three nucleus have been involved over here in the triple fusion. So hence double fertilization, triple fusion, you can say it as, right? So now, so this process is only called as what? Double fertilization and the triple fusion. Now this is very important point of this particular chapter. Many times these questions also have been asked. Okay, so this is an important point. So now once an embryo or an endosperm is being produced, okay, we have what? The further processes. So let's see what are the further processes of the same. So now whatever we are going to see over here will be the post, what do you say, fertilization events. Okay, means after this fertilization happens, what are the next processes which is going to take place? That is what we are going to see over here. Okay, so now as I told you, two things, that is embryo as well as the endosperm, both the things are formed over here, right? So let's just write this as what? The post-fertilization events. Right? So now in the post-fertilization events, we are going to consider the two things. Okay, that is one is the embryo and the second one is the endosperm. Right? So whatever the endosperm is there or the embryo is there, it is going to give you certain things. For example, if it's a embryo, then it will give you ovule, seeds, endosperm, fruit. Correct? So now how does this endosperm or the embryo develops? Okay, how is it developed? So first let's see about the development of the endosperm. Okay, so here what happens is we already know that there will be what? A PEN, primary endosperm. I told you that already, right? So the triple fusion, right? So here what happens is whatever the PEC is there. Okay, now what is PEC? Primary endosperm cell. That is the main cell. Okay, so the PEC, okay, that is a primary endosperm cell. It is going to divide repeatedly. So when it divides repeatedly, what you're going to get is a triploid endosperm tissue. After the division, that also repeated division. Okay, so mainly if you take an example, maybe if I take an example of apple. So when you cut the apple, you can see the white color flesh-like thing, right? So that is nothing but the endosperm. Whereas inside, when you see the seeds, it is a result of this embryo. In simple words, if I mean to say, right? So here, whatever the PEC is there, it will divide repeatedly so that it can form a triploid endosperm tissue. And this particular endosperm it acts as what? A store for the reserve food material. So the fleshy parts in fruits, vegetables, whatever you see, so it provides nutrition also for the developing seeds as well. So these are some of the how the endosperm actually develops. So because of the repetitive nuclear divisions, what happens is it will give you like free nuclear endosperm also sometimes. Okay, so what happens is whatever this PEN is there, it will undergo what? A repeated nuclear division. So when it undergoes a repeated nuclear division, it gives you something which is called as what? Free nuclear endosperm. Okay, and the example of free nuclear endosperm that I can give you is the coconut water, tender coconut water, which you drink. So that is an example of what? A free nuclear endosperm. Okay, so here you will see that inside water will be there, surrounding that the white color, that whatever kernel is there, that's your free nuclear endosperm, right? So this is how what a endosperm is formed. Fine. Now let's go to the second part, which is the embryo development. Embryo development. Now we know embryo product we'll get, right? Apart from the endosperm. So now here what happens is whatever the embryo is there, it is going to develop from that egg cell. Okay, two we saw. One is one male gamete fuses with the central nuclei, that thing. That will produce what? Endosperm. Whereas the first male gamete which is going to fuse with the down micropylar part egg cell, there it is going to produce what? The embryo. We already seen that thing. So here whatever the embryo is there, its development takes place where? At the micropylar end of the embryo sac. Right? So here only that particular zygote is also situated. Now, whatever the zygote is there, that is going to undergo division. It undergoes division. Right? So after the formation of the endosperm, this, because it has to get the nutrition, right? The seeds, so that it will form something. So the endosperm is going to produce that particular nutrition for this developing an embryo. So depending upon that, you have here two types. Okay, that is the monocot and dicot seeds. Monocot, dicot. Okay, so mostly whenever the embryo is being developed, it undergoes certain stages. Okay, so I'll just write that particular stages over here. Okay, so the first one, what happens is whatever zygote is there, it is going to form a pro-embryo structure. From there, there will be a globular form, heart, and then finally you have a mature embryo. So these are what the stages, how the embryo actually develops. Okay. So you have two types over here, as I told you, monocotyledonous and dicotyledonous embryo. So let's see the first one, which is the dicotyledonous embryo. See, dicotyledon, monocotyledon means what? Two cotyledons means di, and one cotyledon means monocotyledon, right? So dicotyledonous embryo means what? It will be having an embryonal axis plus two cotyledons. Okay, so whatever the embryonal axis is there, that is going to be above the ground level. Okay, so that particular cotyledon, if you see a seed when it is germinating, like this, it will be that small seed, right? So here one small part will come, and here what happens is roots will be there underground, right? So this is what your plumule radicle. Okay, this is what your plumule, this is the root radicle. Okay, so whatever the portion, little portion of the embryonal axis is going to be above the level of the cotyledons. Okay, so I'll just write it down. Above the level of cotyledons. That is called as epicotyl. So this is going to form what? Stem part, or stem tip you can say, or plumule, whatever. Okay, whereas the second portion which is there below the ground level, okay, so below the level of cotyledon, that will be what? Called as hypocotyl. So hypocotyl, it will give rise to what? Radicle. That is your root tip. And this root tip is covered by whom? Root cap. So this is in case of what? Dicotyledonous embryo. In the same way, if you are seeing the monocotyledonous, here only one cotyledon will be present. Mainly, you can take the examples of the grass family over here, which is also termed as the scutellum. Okay, so grass family, if you see, one only part will be there, that leaf-like part, right? So whatever the cotyledon of the grass family is there, that is basically termed as what? Scutellum. So if you see, the scutellum will be laterally above the whatever the cotyledon level or the embryonic axis which is there, which we saw in the dicotyledonous was above the level of the cotyledon and below the level of the cotyledon. Now here what happens is, above whatever one part is there of that particular grass family, which is called as the scutellum, where, and it will be situated where? Lateral to the embryonal axis. Lateral to the embryonic axis or embryonal axis. Okay, so here again what happens is, at the lower end, we already know this, lower end means radicle and root cap, that will be enclosed in a structure which is called as what? Coleorhiza. And above, we already know, above the level or the above end, we have the epicotyl, right? That is the shoot apex. So it will be enclosed in the coleoptile. That is your leaf primordia. If you see any leaf, it will be curled, right? That particular starting leaf, it will be curled. That small thing which is there, that is the leaf primordia, which will be enclosed where? In the coleoptile. Okay, so you have that particular structure differentiation just in the dicotyledonous embryo and the monocotyledonous embryo. Okay, so next, as I told you, we get what? Seeds from the ovule and fruit from the ovary. That is the basic thing that we know, right? So seeds from the ovule. Okay, seeds from ovule. So as you know, when a seed gets fertilized, okay, that happens where? Inside the ovule only, whatever the fertilization is taking place. So seed is a final product you will get after the sexual reproduction once the ovule has been fertilized. So if you take a seed, it will be having certain parts, right? So the seed parts are what? First is seed coat. Second is cotyledon. Third is embryo axis. Just now we saw these things. Right, cotyledons, generally you know that two things which comes above, okay, it will actually be swollen due to, because the food material will be present in them. Okay, so if you see whenever a seed becomes mature, you generally have two types of seed over here. Okay, two types of seed mainly, which is called as the albuminous and non-albuminous. Now, what is this albuminous and non-albuminous? See, albuminous means what? That particular seeds are going to retain a part of the endosperm inside it. So hence it's called as the albuminous. Okay, I'll just write it down over here. It will retain a part of endosperm. Whereas in the non-albuminous, what will happen? There will be no residual part of the endosperm at all. Residual part completely consumed. Completely consumed. Okay, like for example, if you take albuminous, here you can take wheat, okay, then barley, coconut, all those stuff. Whereas over here, peanuts, okay, pea, then you can take the groundnut, beans, all those stuff you can involve over here. But what happens is, apart from this two, there will be some seeds. Okay, like there also you will find, instead of the remnants of the endosperm, there will be also a remnant of what? The nucellus. For example, if you take any spice like black pepper, okay, so in that black pepper, you will see the remnants of the nucellus. Instead of the endosperm, nucellus remnants will be present. And that particular part is called as what? Perisperm. You will find this where? Especially in black pepper like things. So what happens is, whatever the integuments which will be there after the germination of the ovules, that is the seeds, it is going to become hard and it will act as what? The seed coat. Integuments of ovules harden as tough protective seed coat. So during the germination, what is going to happen? A small pore will be present wherein it is going to take in the oxygen as well as the water required for the germination process. So once when the seed gets germinated, then it will become dry. Okay, because seeds, it becomes dry afterwards. Okay, and whatever the activity of the germination is there, it will slow down slowly and it will enter into the dormancy. See, now basically, if a seed is soft, then obviously it will be prone to germination when it will get oxygen and water. But if that particular seed is hard, for example, if you take any legumes, okay, directly if you put it inside the what do you say, soil, it is not going to germinate because it is having a seed, a hard seed coat. So hence what you will do, you have to make it you have to make it come through that particular dormant stage. And you should provide favorable conditions like oxygen, moisture, suitable temperature, which is required for the germination. Then and then only whatever the seeds are there, they are going to germinate. Okay, so this is all about what the, like how a seed means produced from what? A ovule, right? Then you have the next one, which is the fruit. You get fruit from where? We get the fruit from the ovary. So let's see about that ovary. So now the whatever the ovary is there, that is going to develop into what? Fruit. Right? So ovule into seed, ovary into fruit. So here, as we saw, like how the ovule is having certain parts like cotyledons, seed coat, and stuff. Here, the ovary will be having what? A fruit wall, which is called as pericarp. Like for example, if you take the apple, whatever the red color covering is there, that is your pericarp. Inside whatever is there, that is your what do you say, fleshy part, that is endosperm. Whereas again inside, if you go, there will be seeds, which is your ovule, right? So the ovary wall is there, which is developed into the pericarp, which is nothing but the fruit wall. So fruits will be fleshy. You can take any of the fruits or whatever it is. So accordingly, you have two types of fruits over here. Okay, two types of fruit, like how we saw the seeds, right? In the same way, two types of fruit we have, true and false. So true fruits means what? That particular fruit is only going to develop from the ovary only. Develops from ovary. So what is false fruit? This false fruit, okay, here thalamus also plays an important role in the development of the fruit. For example, in true fruits, if you take only that particular ovary, instead of the ovary, other whatever floral parts are there, whatever floral parts in a flower is there, it is all going to fall down. There will be no part of that particular parts involving where in the development of the fruit. Whereas in the false fruit, thalamus will contribute a little bit. Apart from the ovary, thalamus which is there, that will also contribute a little bit. So hence it's called as a false fruit. So in true fruits, example you can take is what? Like most of the plants, everything comes under the true fruits. Okay, whereas in the false, you will be having apple, strawberry, those kind of things. But you have one more category in this, that is there are some fruits which is going to develop without the fertilization. Okay, so when the fruits develop without fertilization, they are called as parthenocarpic fruit. For example, banana. Okay, so you can give growth hormones and all those stuff. Okay, so that you will also get what? A seedless fruit over there. That is called as what? Parthenocarpic fruit. Now, this is only applicable if the seeds are what do you say? If the seeds, fruits are developed without the fertilization process. Okay, then only it is called as what? The parthenocarpic fruit. Right? Yeah. So, just a second. Yeah. Then next one, the last point of this chapter, which is the apomixis and polyembryony. Polyembryony. See, now already I told you some plants produce the seeds without the fertilization, right? So that particular process is only called as what? Apomixis. Some plants produce seeds without fertilization. So whatever the process is there, it's called as the apomixis. So hence, because fertilization is not happening, so it's a asexual type of reproduction. So it's just going to mimic the sexual reproduction. Okay, so if you take a certain species, there what happens is the apomixis also will occur as what? Diploid cell. But here, yeah, the process which only happens in the sexual reproduction, which is the meiosis. See, two types of cell division is there, mitosis and meiosis. So in the apomixis, what will happen is, even though if that particular thing is going to develop from a diploid egg, meiosis will not happen. Only mitosis is going to happen. So hence, it will develop into what? Embryo without the fertilization. Okay, so here only mitosis is going to happen. No meiosis is going to happen. So hence, this process is only called as what? Apomixis. Right? So what happens is, I'll just write it down. In some species, this occurs as the diploid egg cell is formed without meiosis and develops into embryo without fertilization. So if you take some of the fruits like citrus and mango, in that what will happen is whatever the nucellus cell is there, it will divide, okay, and it will produce what? The embryo sac and develop into the embryo. So it depends, okay, every species, different process they will be having with fertilization as well as what? Without fertilization. So whenever a particular ovule is going to have what? Several embryos, means more than one embryo, then it is termed as what? Polyembryony. So most probably this apomixis process you will be seeing in the hybrid varieties of fruits and vegetables, because this process has been mainly used where in order to, what do you say, increase the crop yield. Okay, so there only this particular process is very important. Okay, because if you want higher yield, apomixis is the best option which you can do, because there is no fertilization involved over there, and you can easily produce what? Hybrid seeds of your choice and characteristic, right? Even but one more thing is there, that whatever hybrids, if you collect them and if you sow them, it's expensive, because hybrid seeds comparatively they are what? Expensive. Okay, so that one thing is there, but whatever hybrid seeds are there, that is made by the process of what? Apomixis.